May 2012, Quebec. 5. 3 inches the morning. 12 officers in tactical gear move through the pre-dawn dark. No sirens, no announcement. Battering ram in position against the door of a modest suburban house. Inside, a man named Frank Barassa is asleep next to his girlfriend, Marie. He has no idea they're there. The door comes off its hinges. Boots on hardwood floors. Shouting. Frank wakes up to officers in his bedroom. Hands up, get on the floor, and before he's fully conscious, he's face down, handcuffed, listening to Marie screaming his name. In the garage, industrial printing equipment. In the basement, paper. Stacks of it. In the closet, almost $1 million in fake $20 bills, crisp and perfectly printed. In a drawer by the bed, one more thing, a small bag of cannabis. Months later, that bag of cannabis would carry the largest fine of the entire case. Frank Barassa is the most successful solo counterfeiter in modern history. He printed approximately $250 million in fake currency, and he is about to negotiate his way almost entirely out of the consequences. This is how he built it, how he almost got away with it, and what it cost him. Thetford Mines, Quebec, 2008. Frank Barassa, 38, sits in his home office staring at a wall covered in newspaper clippings, magazine articles, and printed web pages. All of them about money. Not how to earn it, not how to invest it, how it's made, the inks, the paper, the security features, the machines that print it. Frank had built a brake pad manufacturing company from nothing. Sold it for a profit. The number was respectable. The cost was not. 18-hour days, sometimes 20. Years of grinding. 4 a.m. alarms. Midnight finishes. Birthdays missed. Holidays missed. Life, the actual life he had been trying to build, mostly missed. He got there. He looked at the number, and he thought, this is what that cost me. It wasn't enough. There had to be a smarter way, a shortcut. Something that got him the result without the decades. Frank spent 20 years solving the hardest problem in business, finding customers. Now, for the first time, he was staring at a product that solved itself. Money. The one thing every human being on Earth already wants. Nobody refuses it. Nobody comparison shops. Nobody reads reviews before accepting a 20. No marketing. No sales team. No customer acquisition. He circled the word on his notepad. Wrote 3 more words under it. No marketing required. Frank begins researching counterfeiting. Not the amateur kind. Inkjet printers. Regular paper. The stuff that fools nobody for more than 30 seconds. The serious operations. North Korean supernotes, reportedly capable of fooling bank machines. Colombian cartel printing hundreds of millions. Frank studies their failures the same way he studied competitors' products, looking for the structural weakness. He bought $43 in singles at a gas station on a Tuesday afternoon. He spent the next 6 hours at his kitchen table. He held a real $1 bill over a lighter. It charred at the corner, but didn't catch the way paper catches. He held a sheet of printer paper over the same flame. It went in 2 seconds. He did it with a photocopy. Same. By midnight, he had one conclusion written in block letters. Everyone gets caught because of the paper. US currency isn't printed on paper. It's a cotton linen blend, manufactured by a single American company for over a century. It doesn't glow under UV light the way regular paper does. It has a specific texture. A dry crackle when you fold it that you can feel in a few seconds if you know what you're looking for. It survives thousands of folds without tearing. Every counterfeiter who had tried to approximate it failed the same way. The paper gave them away. Frank stared at his notes. Everyone was trying to fake the paper. What if he could get something close to the real thing? Late 2008. Frank looks at his phone, takes one breath, and dials. Good morning. I represent a private investment consortium. We're looking to produce corporate bearer bonds with high security features. The sales representative is interested. Bearer bonds are legitimate. Banks issue them. Corporations use them. They require security features by design. Frank explains, the bonds will be denominated in US dollars. International transactions. They need to withstand scrutiny. What specifications do you require? This is the moment. Frank reads from a list he prepared. His voice doesn't waver. Cotton linen blend, no optical brighteners. UV stable. The representative makes notes. Standard security paper. No flags. Embedded features? Frank's heart rate climbs. He keeps his voice almost bored. We need a watermark. I'll send you the image file. It's the portrait of our company's founder. Very important to our corporate identity. The image file is Andrew Jackson's face. The same portrait on every US $20 bill. We also need a security thread embedded in the paper. It should behave under ultraviolet light the same way currency-grade threads do. The representative makes more notes. Unusual, but not suspicious. Clients have strange requests constantly. Frank's girlfriend, Marie, appears in the doorway. Who were you talking to? He covers the mouthpiece. A supplier. She nods and goes back to the kitchen. The company sends a quote. Frank doesn't negotiate. He pays immediately, tens of thousands of dollars for a shipment of paper that, by his calculations, will be enough to print hundreds of millions in fake currency. Months later, a shipping container arrives at customs. Frank sits in his car across the lot, engine off, binoculars in his hands. He watches every movement, every gesture, every pause. Customs officers move between containers. Forklifts hum, metal doors slam. His container is lifted. It starts moving toward the inspection bay. Then a hand signal. Stop. Frank stiffens, doesn't breathe. An officer steps closer. Another joins him. They talk. One of them asks for the documents. Frank watches through the binoculars. The paperwork is handed over. The officer scans it. A line catches his eye, printed plainly. Security paper. The officer nods, hands the documents back. Signals to proceed. The container moves again. Frank exhales. His hands are steady. He makes a note to himself. Stay in the car longer next time. His body had been ready to run before his brain caught up. The container arrives at a warehouse Frank has rented under a shell company. He and a trusted associate sweep it with electronic scanners. Walls, doors, floor. They scan the boxes one by one. Nothing. Frank opens a box. Inside, industrial rolls of security paper. Cotton linen blend. Watermarked with Andrew Jackson's portrait. Security threads that respond correctly under UV. He runs his fingers across a sheet. The crackle, the weight, the texture. He holds it up to the light. Andrew Jackson stares back. This is it. Early 2009. Rural Quebec. A rented warehouse. Frank spent 3 weeks studying a single $20 bill, the way a surgeon studies an X-ray before operating. He ran his thumbnail across Andrew Jackson's portrait. He could feel it. The ink wasn't sitting on the surface. It had been pressed into the paper, dragged by a metal plate under enormous pressure. The technical term was intaglio printing. The practical problem, his offset press couldn't replicate it. The raised texture would be gone. Smooth. Wrong. He wrote intaglio in his notebook. Circled it 3 times. He tilted the bill under a halogen lamp. The numeral 20 inches, the bottom corner shifted, copper to green to copper again as he changed the angle. Color shifting ink. Optically variable. Impossible to replicate with commercial ink. He put the bill under a jeweler's loupe, found the microprinting. The United States of America repeated along the border in type, so small it looked like a thin line to the naked eye. On his test prints, it was already a smear. Micro, 1 circle. Underlined, 3 problems. In order of difficulty, he taped the list to the wall above his press. Then he started working. He hired a graphic designer, told him it was for a film prop. Got digital master files, every element of a $20 bill, precise to the micrometer. He sourced specialty inks through suppliers who didn't ask questions. The exact Secret Service formulations weren't commercially available, but close equivalents existed. Chemical analysis, trial and error. Dozens of test prints burned after examination. For 2 months, he printed, studied, compared, adjusted, reprinted, and burned. Same microscopes, same techniques, same obsessive attention to detail. Then one night in March 2009, he printed a bill that made him stop. He held it up to the light. The watermark glowed perfectly. He ran his finger across Jackson's portrait. The texture was close. Not perfect, but close. He tilted it under the lamp. The 20 shifted. Copper to green. He pulled out a counterfeit detection pen, drew a line across the surface. The mark turned yellow. The correct response for real currency. Frank drove to a gas station 2 blocks away. 2 in the morning. Empty parking lot. He bought a pack of gum and paid with the test bill. His hands didn't shake. He was surprised to notice he'd expected them to. The cashier held it to the light, rubbed it between her fingers. Standard checks. A few seconds, but for Frank, it stretched. She put it in the register and handed him his change. $19.12 in real US currency. He drove home, sat in the car for 4 minutes without turning off the engine. The bill had worked. He'd done what the Secret Service called nearly impossible. He brought Marie flowers the next morning. She didn't ask where he'd been. Summer 2009. Frank's warehouse runs around the clock. His small crew works in shifts. Print, cut, stack, bundle. Each bundle, $10,000 in fake 20s. 500 bills, crisp and identical. But printing money is only half the operation. The dangerous half is moving it. If Frank walks into stores buying things with fake 20s, he gets caught within days. Surveillance cameras, witness descriptions, geographic patterns, amateur hour. He needs wholesale distribution. And that means entering a world he's never touched. Frank Barassa is a white-collar businessman. Business lunches, spreadsheets, contracts. His entire career built on handshakes with suppliers and signed agreements. Now he needs to sit across from people who solve problems with bullets. The first meeting is in a parking garage in Montreal. 11 p. Frank arrives in a polo shirt and khakis. He looks like someone's accountant. The men waiting for him do not. Tattoos, gold chains, eyes that have seen things Frank has only read about in newspapers. Frank treats it like any other sales meeting. His pitch is simple: fake 20s at 30 cents on the dollar. Give him $30,000 in real money. Get $100,000 in high-quality fakes. They're skeptical. They've seen counterfeit money before. It always fails. One of them leans forward. If this is garbage, we'll find you. It's not a threat, it's a statement of fact, like a terms and conditions clause. Frank doesn't blink. Test them! He hands over samples. They test at banks, at casinos, at high-end retail. The bills pass. The first deal closes. Then a second. Then 10 more. A hotel room in Montreal. Frank sat across from a man he knew only as Le Gros, a middleman for organizations Frank was careful not to know too much about. Le Gros put on reading glasses, held a bill up to the window light, ran it under a portable UV scanner he'd brought in a briefcase, rubbed it between his fingers. This real? No. Le Gros laughed. A short, surprised bark. My guys passed 5 of these at the salon last week. The cashiers didn't blink. They closed at 30 cents on the dollar. Frank drove home alone. Somewhere between Montreal and Quebec City, he did the math. Rough total addressable market, supply constraints, distribution capacity. He thought about the people who'd unknowingly receive his bills. The cashiers and parking attendants and shop clerks. He thought about it for approximately 40 seconds. Then he thought about the number again. Over the next 2 years, his operation ran like a supply chain. Print, cut, bundle, sell. Same professionalism as any legitimate wholesale business. Consistent quality, reliable delivery windows, repeat clients. His buyers paid on time because the alternative, driving to his house, was something Frank had made it quietly clear he would not tolerate. In 6 months, he made more than in 10 years of brake pads. Word spread through the criminal underground. There was a guy in Quebec. White collar. Looked like a tax attorney. Made 20s you couldn't tell from real. The businessman who had spent his career avoiding risk was now meeting bikers in warehouse parking lots, cartel middlemen in hotel rooms, gang members in strip club back offices. Every meeting had the same exit condition. Either he walked out or he didn't. No contracts, no lawyers, just Frank's read on a room and whether he got it right. He was running the most illegal business in Canada on the same operational principles that had made his brake pad company successful. The shortcut was working. What Frank didn't know, couldn't see from inside the operation, was that his bills were already building a case file 1,200 kilometers away. That every perfectly printed 20 that passed through a casino cage, a bank teller's window, or a retail register was leaving a trace. Not obvious, not immediate, but cumulative. And the analyst who would crack it was about to do exactly what Frank had done 3 years earlier. Sit down with a $20 bill, a microscope, and an obsessive attention to detail. The difference was that she was paid to find the flaw he was paid to hide. Secret Service Headquarters, Washington, D.C. A forensic analyst stared at two $20 bills through a comparison microscope. She'd been doing this for 11 years, usually spots a fake in under 60 seconds. Wrong paper, wrong ink, blurry microprinting. This one was different. The paper was correct. Cotton linen blend, proper weight, no optical brighteners. The watermark was embedded, not printed. The security thread responded correctly under UV. By every standard test, this bill should be real. She increased magnification. Studied the intaglio printing on Jackson's portrait. The lines were crisp, but the ink was sitting on the paper instead of being pressed into it. The difference between a genuine engraving and a perfect photograph of one, undetectable without laboratory equipment. She added it to a file that now contained 63 samples from across North America. Then she picked up the phone. "We have a systematic operation," she said. "Whoever is printing these isn't guessing. They understand the security architecture at the level of someone who helped design it. How good are the bills?" She looked at the sample one more time. "Good enough that if I found one in my change this afternoon, I'd put it in my wallet." The Secret Service and Canadian police had identified tens of millions of dollars in these supernotes circulating across North America. The bills were appearing faster than they could track. And unlike any previous counterfeiting operation, there was no geographic cluster, no obvious network, no street-level pattern to pull on. Whoever was printing these had solid operational security. In Quebec, Frank was reading about the investigation with professional interest. He knew they were hunting the bills in circulation, tracing street-level distributors, working backward through retail networks. Not the man at the press. Frank wasn't stupid. He knew this couldn't last forever. Eventually, someone would talk. The freedom he'd bought was always borrowed time. He started planning his exit. What he didn't know, one of his clients had already been compromised. March 2012. Montreal. A coffee shop. Frank enters, scans the room before sitting. Habit, now automatic. The man waiting looks like a typical buyer. But something is wrong, and Frank feels it the moment he sits down. He can't place it. He files it. "I need 100,000 to start." Test the product. See how it moves. Frank nods. $100,000 is standard for a first transaction with a new buyer. Low risk. If the quality is what they say, I'll be back for more. A lot more. The deal is already in motion. Backing out now would look suspicious. Worse than suspicious. Dangerous. They arrange the exchange. A parking lot outside a shopping mall. Frank brings the bills, the buyer brings real payment. They shake hands. Frank leaves. He sits in his car, looks in the mirror. The feeling won't leave. He tells himself he's being paranoid. He starts the car. In the surveillance van parked across the street, officers exchange a look. They have him on tape. Frank's instinct was right. The trap was already set, and Frank was already in it. April 2012. Shopping mall parking lot. 8:03 p.m. Frank pulls in driving a rented SUV. Nothing traceable to him. In the back, a duffel bag. $100,000 in fake 20s. The test run. He's done this kind of exchange dozens of times. But something is in the air. Frank has survived this long by trusting what he can't explain. Right now, it's screaming. He circles the lot twice, looks for surveillance vans. Unmarked cars. People sitting in vehicles with no apparent reason. Everything looks normal. He parks. 8:07 p.m. He gets a backpack with payment, hands over the duffel. The buyer checks a bill under UV. The security thread glows green. Pleasure doing business. They drive in opposite directions. The next day, another call. The buyer's voice is full of excitement. The product is perfect. My people are thrilled. I need another 100,000. Same terms. Can you deliver tomorrow? Frank hesitates. 2 large deals back to back with a new buyer. This is exactly the pattern that gets people caught. But the money is real. Tomorrow, same place, 8 o'clock. What Frank doesn't know, this time, everything is different. 8:05 p.m. The second exchange goes smoothly. Frank gets the backpack, hands over the duffel. 15 seconds later, in the surveillance van, package delivered, subject heading north. We have him. 500 meters above, a helicopter tracks his SUV through cloud cover. Frank checks his mirrors constantly. He doubles back twice. The road behind him looks empty. We have him. He drives for an hour. Random turns, doubling back. Every counter-surveillance technique he developed over 3 years. The team stays with him the entire time. 8:47 p.m. Frank pulls onto a rural property. Marie's house. They photograph the address. They have everything they need for an arrest warrant. But they want the printing operation, the paper supply, the hidden cash reserve. They need him to lead them there. For 3 more weeks, they watch. Frank feels it. He can't see them, can't prove it, but the weight of something watching has settled in his chest and won't leave. He comes home one evening and Marie meets him at the door. He guides her inside, closes the door behind them, and moves to the window. Frank. What happened? Nothing. I thought I saw something. He sits by the window with binoculars, watching every car that passes, timing how long they stay. Marie comes down at midnight, still in his old sweatshirt, and sits across from him. I don't know what you're doing, she says. I've never really known, but whatever it is, it's not worth this. He puts the binoculars down, looks at her. It's fine. He picks them back up. She goes back upstairs. He'll think about that moment later. He'll think about it for a long time. They scheduled the raid for May. Frank Barassa had exactly 3 weeks of freedom left. He didn't know it. On the morning of May 14th, 2012, Frank was asleep when they came. Marie was beside him. The window was dark, and then it wasn't. He was face down and handcuffed within seconds, still half asleep, boots thundering around him, Marie screaming his name from somewhere he couldn't see. His first thought, clear as anything, this is it. He sat in the back of the police cruiser, cuffed, still in the clothes he'd slept in. Through the window, he watched officers moving in and out of the house, watched them carry out the printing equipment, watched them bag the plates, watched one of them pull the duffel from the closet and open it, watched an officer hold a $20 bill up to the dawn light. Andrew Jackson stared back, perfectly composed. The officer put the bill in an evidence bag. Frank did the math. The warehouse, the $200 million still in storage. The plates, the digital files, the supply chain documentation, everything that would take them years to understand without him. He had exactly one asset remaining. I want my lawyer, he said. Inside a consultation room, Frank leaned toward his lawyer. The Secret Service wants me. Canada wants me. They can fight about it, or they can have a deal. His lawyer, a man named Tremblay, who had represented enough serious criminals to stop being surprised by them, put his pen down. You're looking at 46 to 60 years federal, if they extradite you. I know. You understand what that means. I understand what I have. Frank slid a single page across the table, a hand-drawn map. Somewhere in Quebec, there is approximately $200 million in counterfeit 20s. I'm the only person alive who knows exactly where. Untouched. In original factory packaging. He paused. If I go to prison for a long time, that money finds its way into circulation eventually. It doesn't help anyone. But if Canada gives me something reasonable, time served, no extradition, I give them everything. Money, Plates, technical specifications, the paper supply chain. Everything they need to understand the operation and prevent the next one. Tremblay stared at his client. "You're negotiating this like a business deal." Frank looked at him steadily. "Because it is one. I have a product they want. I have a price. This is a negotiation." It was the same skill set that had made him a successful entrepreneur. Cold logic, clear leverage, defined terms. He had done this his entire career, just never with this particular product. June 2012, a police convoy on Route 158. Frank Barassa in the back of an unmarked car, wrists loose in front of him. Watching countryside he's driven through dozens of times. The warehouse door opened. Nobody spoke. Not because they were being professional, because what they were looking at took a moment to process. Boxes on pallets, floor to ceiling. Each sealed, each labeled in Frank's private coding system. Each containing bundles of counterfeit 20s. Sorted by batch, quality checked, ready for distribution. Enough to change hands thousands of times before anyone would know. An officer pulled a single bill and held it to the fluorescent overhead light. Andrew Jackson stared back with the same unreadable expression he always had. 3 days of counting. Final tally. Approximately $200 million. Plus the printing plates. Plus the digital master files. Plus technical specifications detailed enough to serve as a textbook on large-scale currency counterfeiting and how to detect it. The same knowledge that had made Frank Barassa dangerous was now making him valuable. July 2012. Quebec Superior Court. Marie had been in the gallery for the preliminary hearings. She sat in the third row, and every time Frank looked over, she met his eyes. On the day of sentencing, her seat was empty. Frank noticed before the judge called the room to order. He looked at the empty seat for a moment. Just a moment, then looked at his hands. The judge sentenced him to time served. 6 weeks, plus a fine of $1,350 for cannabis possession. Someone in the gallery laughed and caught themselves. The prosecutor stared at the ceiling. An officer near the door shook his head, almost imperceptibly. Frank walked out of the courthouse alone. The deal had worked perfectly. Not every loss is negotiable. Frank Barassa carries a business card that reads, Security Consultant. He sits across from bank executives and currency board officials in a tailored suit. He shows them the exact methods he used. He demonstrates the paper tests, the UV vulnerabilities, the offset press techniques he developed in a rented warehouse in rural Quebec with no formal training in any of it. He charges more per speaking engagement than he made in any single year selling brake pads. Entry to the United States is permanently closed. That's the one condition that never went away. He doesn't talk about Marie. That's the one question journalists have learned not to ask twice. What he will say, when pressed, is this. He wanted freedom from the grinding work of building something real. He found it briefly, brilliantly, perfectly, for about 3 years. And then it was gone. He built something real once, from nothing, with nothing but years of 18-hour days and the grinding patience of someone who refuses to quit. He sold it for a profit, looked at the number, and decided it wasn't enough. He was wrong about that. The shortcut got him everything he wanted. The money was real. The lifestyle was real. The time was real. The illusion wasn't the shortcut. The illusion was believing that any of it could last. That freedom purchased with fake money would hold. Frank Barassa has sat on both sides of the law. The skills are identical. The attention to detail, the operational precision, the ability to read a room and close a deal. The label depends on which side of the table you're sitting on. The view from each side is something else entirely.